It was supposed to be the classic American dream. A huge, beautiful house right on the water in Long Island. It was a fresh start for George and Kathy Lutz and their 3 kids. But this dream home, well, it was built on a foundation of absolute horror, and it was about to become their waking nightmare. Today, we're going to unpack one of the most famous and maybe one of the most controversial ghost stories in American history. 28 days. That's it. Not even a full month. I mean, what on earth could possibly happen in just 28 days to make an entire family run for their lives, leaving literally everything they owned behind? That right there, that is the core question of the whole Amityville mystery. So picture this. It's the middle of a freezing January night. The Lutz family doesn't just, move out of 112 Ocean Avenue. No, they fled. They didn't pack boxes, they didn't call a moving truck, they just piled into their car and drove off into the night, convinced they were escaping a house that wanted them dead. Just think about that for a second. The scale of what they left behind, this wasn't just forgetting a few things, it was abandoning their entire life's investment. And for a lot of people, this is the single strongest argument that whatever they experienced, their fear was 100% real. Okay, so what could have possibly driven them out? Well, the family stories paint this picture of a house that was systematically and very deliberately breaking them down, attacking every single one of their senses. At first, it was stuff you might try to explain away, right? Like sudden, intense cold spots in a room, a horrible smell that would just appear and then vanish. But then it started to escalate. Big time. We're talking swarms of flies in the dead of winter, and this weird red jelly-like slime that would apparently just ooze out of the walls. And then came this. Kathy Lutz claims she saw a terrifying, pig-like creature with glowing red eyes just staring at her from the yard. They even said they found these weird hoof prints in the snow outside that just stopped, right in the middle of the lawn, as if whatever made them had just vanished into thin air. For George, the terror became a routine. He started waking up every single night, right on the dot at 3:15 a.m., filled with this horrible sense of dread. Now, he didn't know it at the time, but that was the exact time that the house's dark history had been written in blood. Because this is the thing, this whole story doesn't actually begin with the Lutz family. No, it starts with the DeFeo family and the absolutely brutal crime that soaked the home's foundation in tragedy just 13 months before the Lutzes even set foot inside. Just look at how fast this all spiraled. In November of '74, Ronald DeFeo Jr. murders his entire family. Only a year later, the Lutzes buy the house at a bargain price. A mere 28 days after that, they're gone. And by 1977, their story is a massive bestseller. The timeline is just incredibly tight. And this is where it gets really, really chilling. Ronald DeFeo Jr.'s defense for the murders was that voices in the house told him to do it. Then, just over a year later, in that exact same house, George Lutz said he was fighting those same urges, hearing a voice telling him to kill his family. So, is that just a wild coincidence, or was the house itself the killer? Right when you think you have this story figured out, it takes a sharp turn. The terror seems so real, but once the story went public, a totally new question popped up. Was this a real haunting, or was it one of the most elaborate, perfectly executed hoaxes of all time? The biggest argument for this whole thing being a hoax? Motive. Plain and simple. The Lutz family was in some serious financial trouble. And guess what? The story of their haunting made them an absolute fortune from book deals and movie rights. It was the perfect storm. And here comes the bombshell. William Weber, that's the lawyer for the murderer, Ronald DeFeo Jr., he later came out and admitted that he and George Lutz had actually kicked around ideas for a horror book over bottles of wine, while the family was supposedly still living in terror in the house. That really makes it sound like the book deal was planned from the start, doesn't it? So the evidence just pulls you into totally different directions. On one side, you have a terrified family that drops everything and runs. You have a priest, an independent witness who got violently sick after trying to bless the house. And you have Kathy Lutz, who stuck to her story until the day she died. But then on the other side, you've got a huge financial motive, the lawyer's damning admission, and the fact that George Lutz himself once admitted under oath that it was all a hoax before, taking it back later. It's a mess. So after decades of books and movies and lawsuits, That house on Ocean Avenue just stands there, silent. And it leaves us with one of the most compelling and honestly, one of the most frustrating unsolved mysteries in American history. The house has changed hands multiple times since the 70s. Those creepy quarter moon windows that looked like eyes, they're gone. And maybe most telling of all, every recent owner has reported absolutely nothing. No weird smells, no cold spots, nothing. So, if the house was really a gateway to hell, why did it suddenly just stop? So, in the end, we're left with this question. Was a family genuinely tormented by some demonic force that was born from a horrific murder? Or were they just really clever storytellers who pulled off one of the greatest hoaxes we've ever seen? After looking at all the evidence, what do you believe?